Okay, great. We'll give just a minute here for people to hop on, but we're going to pretty much get started right away because we have a lot of content to get through today. And we want to make sure we save time for the good stuff, the questions and discussion toward the end. So let's see. Mary, let's see. Yep. All right. Let's just charge forth as people are entering. I'll welcome you. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. Really appreciate your participation and interest in learning about how to get started with building electrification. Specifically, of course, we're going to be focusing on energy studies, incentives, and financing. And here is our agenda. I'll be introducing you to our panelists in just a minute, also running through our webinar goals. I would also invite you to introduce yourselves in the chat, name, and if you're affiliated with any organization, we'd love to know where you're coming from. We will very briefly run through what the AMPED campaign is, some basics of what beneficial electrification is, and of course share with you that there are some challenges involved in electrifying your building, but of course also some good news to share about the benefits of that. So all of that initial content, we're going to breeze through really quickly so we can dig in deep on the energy studies, the incentives, and the financing. And we intend to leave some time for questions and answers. We will save your questions until the end, but as they occur to you, please put them in the Q&A, not the chat, because we might miss them if they're in the chat. But if you have questions, use the Q&A function to tell us what they are. And at the end, we will address all of those questions together. And here's our list of presenters for today. We have some people who have really deep expertise in these issues and so pleased to be able to share with you today what they have to say. And we just want to thank them, of course, for their time being here. So our goals, we're going to learn what an energy study can do for you and how to schedule one, because that really is the first step to getting started with this process. Learn about the incentives and financing options that can help you make the money work for these projects. Appreciate that it is doable. It is not all or nothing. So, there may be incremental steps that you need to take before you get to full electrification of your building, and that is fine. I want to leave you with some clear action steps and some information about how to plug into the AMPED campaign for continued information and access to resources. And it's important to note here that we are not going to cover every single incentive and financing option that is out there and available because there's just too much to talk about. So we're going to give you some highlights and hopefully give you the sense that no matter what your building type is, what your organization type is, that there is almost certainly some kind of energy study, incentive, financing option that would make sense for you. All right, so what is the AMPED campaign? This has been a collaboratively organized campaign. A lot of different organizations have been part of making this happen, as you'll see on one of the next slides. But the focus really is to mitigate the impacts of climate change by reducing carbon pollution caused by fossil fuels through the promotion of beneficial electrification in our 9-county region. And thank you to the funders. Of course, we have to take a moment to thank the funders. And our steering committee, we've had, again, as I said, a lot of organizations that have contributed to creating this campaign, the vision for it, and then also our creative partners here on this side, who many of whom have donated a lot of time doing pro bono work for this campaign to make it so beautiful. So what is beneficial electrification? That's an important starting point to know how to move forward. Right now, we have a lot of energy needs, of course, most of which are met by burning fossil fuels. And for many reasons, we need to transition away from using fossil fuels and switch to clean electricity for things that would otherwise use fossil fuels. So this, the beneficial part of the electrification, we want to make sure we're saving consumers money over time, having those environmental benefits and reducing greenhouse gas emissions, improving product quality, public health, and/or quality of life, and fostering a more robust and resilient grid. So when you hear the term beneficial electrification, that is what it means. And specifically on the building side, so you can electrify transportation, you can electrify your building. Those are the two main focuses of the AMPED campaign. Today, we're going to focus on the buildings. And this, for your heating system, means probably installing a heat pump. So heat pump technologies, some people may not be familiar with them, but it is the same basic idea as your refrigerator. If you've ever put your hand behind your refrigerator, you know it's a little warmer there, and that's because instead of creating heat, the heat pump simply moves heat from one place to another. And with this, for a building heating system, it can, in the winter, bring the heat into your building, in the summer, run in reverse to provide air conditioning. So that is a really great benefit of heat pumps. They are powered by electricity, again, ideally renewably generated electricity. And there are three main types: ground source, which you may also know by the name of geothermal, air source, and heat pump hot water heaters. So again, provide heating, cooling, and in some cases, hot water. And whenever you're moving forward with a heat pump project, you first want to make sure that your building envelope is nice and tight, and otherwise, that it's well insulated, air sealed, to get that property heat pump ready. So that is the very quick overview of what a heat pump is. And the benefits of using heat pumps: they are super efficient. Again, because they're not creating heat, they're simply moving it from one place to another. They have very low operating and maintenance costs. They improve indoor air quality, because burning fossil fuels in a building just is not that healthy for you. Provide the heating, cooling, and sometimes hot water. Very comfortable, even temperature, and what's near and dear to my heart, they are environmentally friendly. Now, it's not all smooth sailing with heat pump projects necessarily, electrification projects, so we want to share a little bit of this kind of bad news, good news with you. The challenges include that every building is unique and has different needs. So, kind of a mantra you're probably going to hear from us today is that, it depends. You might ask about return on investment. Well, it depends on a lot of factors. What programs are you eligible for? It depends on things like organization type, organization size, technology you might want to pursue, right? So you're going to hear a lot of it depends. Also, electrification is easier in new construction, doable really in any building, but easier in new construction typically. And the programs are somewhat complicated and frequently change. So with the incentive and financing programs that we're going to be talking to you about, a month from now, a year from now, those programs might look a little bit different. So you want to make sure you're working with current information. And also, there is likely to be that upfront investment and costs. Again, we'll talk about how, financing can help with that, incentives and financing. But, that initial sticker shock you might feel when you see how much a geothermal system costs can at least be discouraging. So the good news being that you don't have to figure it out alone. We're going to talk to you about how to access, professional experts who can talk you through this stuff and help you to understand your options. The incentives and financing, of course, are available and in many cases are quite generous. Doesn't have to happen overnight. A lot of people, businesses, organizations would decide maybe to install the heat pump when their current system is at the end of its usefulness. So, but the planning process and making sure, again, that your building envelope is tight from the start. Got to put a plan in place, and then you can begin implementing that. And of course, as I mentioned, there are a lot of benefits, so it is worth the effort. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Matt Christopher from NYSERDA, who's going to talk you through the different energy studies that you can take advantage of.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Abby. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with everyone today. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Matt Christopher. I'm a project manager with the Efficiency Planning and Engineering team here at NYSERDA. I'm going to talk to you about a variety of different programs today, energy studies, as well as incentive programs, technical assistance that we can help you guys out with. But before we jump to the next slide, I just want to cover one thing. We deliberately use energy study in the case of this presentation, just because a lot of times folks will use energy study, energy audit interchangeably. And while I would say that an energy audit is a form of an energy study, I just want to make it clear that the Flexible Technical Assistance Program, or the FlexTech program, provides cost share for more than just energy audits. So I'm using that term very deliberately. Next slide, please. So jumping into the FlexTech program, I'm just going to cover eligibility real quick. So we do have commercial, industrial, and multifamily funding available. The caveat to that is that customers have to contribute to the system's benefit charge on their electric utility bill. So that's going to be the first item that you'll want to check anytime you're thinking about engaging in a project. The majority of customers in any of the investor-owned utility territories are going to contribute to the SBC, but it is worth double checking just in case. So what does the FlexTech program offer? We provide a cost share for a variety of different services. So you can see on the screen here, we have comprehensive or targeted energy audits. So generally speaking, with an energy audit, a consultant is going to look at your whole building, right? And they're going to identify a variety of different opportunities for you to pursue further. That is an option. You can also look at a specific piece of equipment. So for example, Abby had mentioned useful life earlier. Say you have a boiler that's at the end of its useful life and you don't really know what to do next. This would be a good place to start. A consultant can come on site, look at that boiler, give you feedback, and then propose some options for change and give you some costs, energy savings impacts, et cetera. We also cover feasibility analysis. So beyond just the energy impacts, will the system actually fit in the facility? Do you need electricity upgrades? What are the impacts to the space going to be? Is it possible to actually install the project? And we also offer energy master planning. So longer term planning for, what do I do in the next 5 to 10, 15 years? So all of those services are cost shared. The majority of services are at a 50% cost share. So you come in, you pay 50%, NYSERDA pays 50%. We do have a pool of consultants that you can work with, our FlexTech consultant list. I would encourage you to pursue a project with a FlexTech consultant. They're very familiar with the program. They know how to navigate the paperwork. And then the cost share structure is different with a FlexTech consultant. So we contract directly with the FlexTech consultant. We release the cost share directly to them. So in terms of cash flow, you are only responsible for 50% of the project cost on the front end. Now you can use your own consultant. However, we would contract directly with you. We would need to see that you've paid the project in full, and then we would release the cost share directly to you, meaning that you would, in terms of cash flow, would have to pay 100% of the project cost. Next slide, please. So our P12 schools green and clean energy solutions program, this is essentially FlexTech, but for P12 schools. There are some additional services available here as well. But you'll notice the cost share. So bullet number 2 there. We're offering a 75% cost share for the majority of schools, and that is for energy studies, energy audits, all kinds of different technical assistance. And then for schools that are categorized in what we call high needs areas, those studies receive 100% cost share. So we will pay for the entire energy study. Those projects are capped at $250,000 per study. The advantage, or one of the differences to this program, is that we do also offer cost share for design services, but that is specific to clean heating and cooling or net zero projects. Now, when I say clean heating and cooling, what I'm referring to is specifically heat pump projects. So the technologies that Abby had just referenced on her previous slides. In the case of design, we offer 75% cost share as well for those services, 100% cost share for high need schools. And there are also some incentives available. Those are prescriptive incentives, and those are for the installation of equipment. And again, you may work with your own consultant, or you can choose from a list of consultants. You can choose from a list of the FlexTech consultants. Next slide, please. So the Green Jobs, Green New York program, this is another technical assistance program. This provides low-cost energy study options for small businesses with less than 100 full-time employees, also not-for-profits of any size. Both of these categories must spend less than $100,000 in annual energy expenditure to be eligible. So we're really looking at smaller customers here. If a customer doesn't fit within those parameters, what I would encourage you to do is participate in the FlexTech program. And just one other note in terms of eligibility, Green Jobs, Green New York customers do not have to contribute to the SBC on their utility bill. Included with the energy study in the Green Jobs, Green New York program is a free clean heating and cooling screening. What the screening is going to do is it's going to look at air source heat pumps, air source VRF, and geothermal systems. and it's going to provide you with energy impacts, emissions impacts, as well as economics. And it's going to be, it's very high level, but what it'll do is it will tell you, does it make sense to investigate this further, to put some money forth to do a more detailed energy study on those specific technologies. So those are our three primary technical assistance programs on the commercial side. And so what we can do next is, if you could go to the next slide, please, Abby, thank you. I'm going to talk you through a handful of incentive programs. Some of these incentive programs do have technical assistance components to them as well, so you can take advantage of both of those. Next slide, please. So of these programs, the majority of them are going to be NYSERDA programs, and then I will pass it to Nicole, who's going to discuss some utility incentive programs with you as well. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the first one I'd like to talk about is our commercial new construction program. This program offers 3 levels of support for non-residential customers. And again, the customers must pay into the system benefits charge on their electric utility bill. It's very rare that we have a program that doesn't include that criteria. So generally, first step is I would look at your utility bill and see if you contribute to that line item. And that is a penny in, penny out. So you don't have to pay, any money contributed to that line item, and you are eligible for most programs. So the support for this program comes in the form of no-cost technical assistance. And that's going to be through guidance, energy modeling, as well as reporting. There's also financial support based upon anticipated energy performance of your building relative to a designated baseline. So through this program, because it is new construction, the financial support is going to cover a portion of the incremental costs of a carbon neutral ready energy efficiency measure. Projects must be either new construction or substantial renovations, and customers cannot obtain financial support from other energy efficiency programs, whether they're NYSERDA or utility programs. So in other words, there is no double dipping on incentives. If you take advantage of this program, you cannot take advantage of another one for incentives. Similar to the FlexTech program, you can select what is called a primary energy consultant from a list that's maintained by NYSERDA. Those are qualified consultants who can walk you through this process, as well as help you take advantage of the incentives and the technical assistance. You do not have to use a primary energy consultant, though. You can use a consultant of your choosing. And if there are any consultants on the call who are interested in either becoming a FlexTech consultant or a primary energy consultant, shoot me an email. I'm more than happy to point you to the correct place to get more information on that. Next slide, please. Up next, I'm going to talk to you about NYSERDA's Multifamily Performance Program. So this is a comprehensive energy efficiency program that has both a technical assistance and an incentive component to it. The incentives for this program range from $700 to $1,500 per unit. And this is specifically for affordable multifamily property owners and managers. And again, they must contribute to the SBC on their electric utility bill. So some instances where it makes sense to consider MPP. If you're planning capital improvements, for example, heating system upgrades, and that includes electrification, so looking at heat pumps, et cetera. If you're undergoing a renovation or a retrofit, if you're refinancing your property, or in the case of New York City, this is not necessarily applicable here, but for consultants that might do work elsewhere in the state. If you're participating in an energy audit through Local I-87, that is another case where this program might make sense. So the way the program works, step one is the customer is going to select an expert or a consultant from the multifamily building solutions provider network. They have approved consultants who provide these services. The consultant's going to perform an energy assessment of the property, develop a scope of work, and ideally reach at least 15% energy savings. So from there, what the customer would do is select measures and install those measures. Upon proper installation, the customer can then collect a construction incentive. And then after 12 months, NYSERDA will verify energy savings and provide an additional incentive if the 15% energy savings minimum is achieved. So if you'd like to learn more about that program and the incentive levels, and feel free to reach out. I'm happy to point you to the multifamily team. And then lastly, The program is expected to stop accepting applications 3 months after the transfer of this program to the utilities. So they're undergoing a program transfer with an anticipated turnaround time of the next few months. So shortly after that, we'll stop accepting applications for this. Next slide, please. Thank you. So next is the Carbon Neutral Economic Development Program. So for this program, NYSERDA has $40 million of incentives available to support economic development projects across the state, specifically for projects that are regionally significant and designed to carbon neutral or net zero energy performance. One important note, support is available for both new construction and existing buildings through this program. The program is competitive though, and there are 2 categories for which applicants can apply to. So category A supports the design and construction of carbon neutral or net zero performance at the facility level. And it's supporting building specific measures for efficiency, renewable energy, storage, as well as electric vehicle charging infrastructure. Category B supports carbon neutral or net zero performance at the community level. And this is including community scale development, campuses, large real estate portfolio developments. The program is geared to expand community and portfolio-based planning services and ideally spur large-scale projects. This program provides cost share for incremental costs of a carbon neutral or net zero performance project or solution. And that's it all set for me, Abby. You can go to the next slide. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Matt. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Nicole Williams, and I am the program manager for the NYSEG and RG&E Clean Heat Statewide Heat Pump Program. This program actually started April 1st of 2020. Prior to that, NYSERDA had run a version of this program and really was the only entity that incentivized for heat pumps. So since taking over the state, the utilities of New York, since they took over this program in April of 2020, we had some key factors that we wanted to include in this program. And what did we want to do? Well, we want to increase market transformation. We want heat pump adoption, beneficial electrification, of course. We want a singular program where contractors can participate and not have to apply for a NYSEG or a project at Con Edison. We wanted to make this design as simple and easy to apply and participate as possible. We wanted to create a set of program expectations, guidelines, processes, and technologies that were unified amongst all the utilities in New York State. So again, if you're a customer that would like to partake and install heat pumps, heat pump technologies, that you have one place to do so, that you're not going all over the place, that you're getting the same message, that you know what the process is. We have one set participating contractor network. So for any that would like to become a participating contractor in the Clean Heat Network, there's one set of application and paperwork that you would have to complete. Although you would need to indicate which utilities you were active in, and you can always update as necessary as you expand your territory. We have one set of QA and QC protocols. We, of course, in addition to expanding heat pump technology adoption, we want to make sure that these heat pumps are installed, that the quality is top tier, that they're safely installed, and then that our customers, whether it's residential or commercial, know how to use these products and use them as efficiently as they can, and that they're made to be used for. And then, of course, we work very closely with NYSERDA in administering this program. Of course, taking on any research and data provided to help improve the quality of this program. I did provide some stats just for NYSEG and RG&E, and this is actually not just year to date, but it is from the inception of the program. So you can see, you know, we have done some work. We've incentivized over $6 million for NYSEG and over $1 million for RG&E. We have work to do, absolutely. But for the first 18 months, it's not horrible. And then, you know, as far as counts go that I've provided here, that is combined technology. So that could be heat pump water heaters, geothermal, or your air source, or a combo. So next slide, please. Here we go with the main course of my presentation. And what do we offer? Here's our incentive list. Now, this list, it contains a lot here, but actually there's even more. And I did provide a PDF, and hopefully that will be provided to all of you attending this webinar, so you can see exactly what is required for each category. The way we measure each technology and incentive that you would be eligible for is based on capacity versus a residential, small business, commercial, and industrial. So categories 1 through 3 are our prescriptive categories, and those serve up to 300,000 BTUs. So that does cover a fair, you know, a portion of commercial spaces, small businesses. And for each project, you know, we do award an incentive. So it's $1,000 for 10,000 BTUHs for our cold climate air source heat pumps. And I would like to mention the emphasis on our program is for heating, although as we know, this technology provides the comforts of both heating and cooling. But for our focus, it truly is on the heating impact. And it's important to note for all categories, the heating load has to satisfy 90 to 120% of the space. If it exceeds 120% of the space, we will then calculate incentives up to 120%, which still isn't a bad deal. So you can see our ground source, which is under category 3. That technology, we incentivize $1,500 per 10,000 BTUHs. Our contractors do get a reward of $500 per project. Our custom projects, that's where we're going to, this is where our new construction falls into, of course, any other type of technology that is market ready, that is not considered prescriptive. I did list some of the technologies that we do incentivize. This is going to be for our larger commercial and industrial customers as well. For that, we do offer $80 per MMBTU. And as Abby stated in her first slides, of course, enveloping is crucial to maintaining the efficiency of our technology as well. So we do incentivize for enveloping measures, in addition to, you know, any of the custom, or again, for the commercial and industrial sectors there. And that it depends on the type of energy efficiency reduction. But if you are seeing larger than a 30% reduction due to your enveloping measures, we will incentivize $100 per MMBTU of annual savings. So it's a really great, rich incentive, and certainly designed, obviously, to help offset the cost of the project. One other thing to note with this program, that is our whole point. The cost is designed, or the program is designed to offset the customer's costs up front. So it truly is the contractor then who would be absorbing, you know, that incentive amount, offsetting to the customer, and then they would apply to get that incentive on the back end once the job was actually complete. So I'm not going to go down through the whole list. Again, a lot of information to digest. I definitely urge anyone to contact me I did provide a link at the bottom of this slide that leads right to our resource page that gives a program manual, process and program guidelines, incentive categories, how to sign up to be a participating contractor, Q&A. We also have a webinar every single month. I urge anyone to participate and attend. We're constantly discussing the program, how it can be further enhanced, and or please feel free to reach out to me at any point if you have any project specific questions. I can always link you up with our account managers as well. And I'm all set. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Bill Coe. I'm with MCOR Services Bethlehem. I'm the Director of Project Development. Thanks, everybody, for attending. I'm going to talk a little bit about financing. So jump into the next slide, please. So now that Matt has guided us on ways to understand how to improve energy efficiency in our buildings, and we've got a list of projects on our plate, and Matt and Nicole and everybody have found some rebate money for us. So I want to talk about how we pay for these projects to keep moving them forward. So before we jump into the different ways of financing these projects, I wanted to mention some considerations that you may want to keep in mind as you step your way through this process. An important one is, after you understand what your project list would be, your energy project list, would be to establish what your investment criteria for your company and your organization would be, whether it's a simple payback or a return on investment that you want to target. And communicating that criteria helps the people understand what types of projects and what types of funding vehicles would be available or best suited for your company. Be sure to include your rebates and incentives in that analysis. Those always help buy down projects and projects that you may think do not meet your investment criteria. After you take into account those rebates and incentives, it may change that attitude or change those numbers around a bit. Another consideration is to build in your O&M savings. So as we replace equipment, this equipment may be aging. You may have to invest more time and money into keeping existing equipment operational. So including the O&M savings into the analysis is a way to show better investments. And then we always like to see combining quick payback projects with longer term projects to get an overall larger project that has a better payback. So if you're looking at quick payback measures or low hanging fruit, such as lighting or controls upgrades, by combining that with what may be a longer term measure, we can look at ways to get more work done in a shorter amount of time and still meet your payback criteria. And then one vehicle that I've seen a lot of customers use is creating a separate fund where they actually bank the energy savings that they've achieved through other measures and use that to fund the next energy project, which is a pretty neat and creative way to look at continuing energy savings projects. Next slide, please. So different financing options, I can touch base on some of these. The traditional options that we see in the market are customers use their own funding of their own capital to fund these energy projects if they have the funding available. Another traditional option is a capital lease. Many times we're replacing existing equipment. So there's leasing entities and agencies in the region that can help replace this equipment under a capital lease program where you're leasing that equipment. They provide the funding and technically they own that equipment until the end of the lease. And then you buy that at the end of the lease. And that allows you to use the energy savings and dollar savings that you achieve to help pay that lease off over time. And then there's the traditional third-party lending that you can receive from your bank or a line of credit from a third party. There's different utility loan options that you can examine too. National Grid is one. They offer an incentive for a loan. They actually incentivize the interest rate down to 0%, where you can pay for an energy project with 0% down up to 24 or 36 months. And the rebate is actually buying that interest rate down to 0%. There's supplier funded options. We've seen energy suppliers, if you have a third-party supplier, be sure to speak with them, where they offer on-bill financing, where you can actually use the energy savings to pay for the project, and it comes across as a line item on your supply bill. And then another avenue would be to investigate any energy savings performance contracting. There's energy services companies available that target combined projects. They're usually larger projects, and they will hold a performance guarantee after they do an evaluation of the energy savings and the O&M savings for your projects. They'll lump all of these together, and what they target is a budget neutral project where the energy savings that you achieve will pay for the entire cost of the project over time. And it could be different terms that are of interest to you. Next slide, please. There are also pay-for-performance contracts. These types are popular with solar fields or renewable energy projects, where you can have $0 down, no maintenance fees, and there's a third party that will actually install the equipment, whether it be a solar field or whatnot, onto your site, and then they'll be the third party owner operator, and they'll have a monthly payment that's received to actually have the equipment on your site. The New York State Green Bank is a vehicle that's out there. It's very dynamic. They come up with different programs that you can use to fund different types of projects. We could have our own presentation describing all the different options for the New York State Green Bank, but it may be something to research to see if your particular project would apply and can be funded under that vehicle. And then there's several different NYSERDA programs that are available, mostly on the residential side. So if you have any residential projects that you hear of, these NYSERDA programs are always viable too. And the New York Sun program, which can fund either residential or commercial projects for solar, is always an option too. Next slide. So we'll hand this off to Sarah for Open CPACE.
Hi, thank you, Bill. I'm Sarah Smiley. I'm Director of Municipal Membership and Transaction Manager for Energy Improvement Corporation, or EIC. We are a nonprofit local development corporation that administers the Open CPACE program on behalf of our member municipalities across New York State. And Open CPACE is an open market, commercial, property assessed clean energy finance program. And it's a specific alternative financing tool for energy efficiency upgrades as well as renewable energy installations. It can be used for up to 100% of the cost of the energy project, and it's repaid at a fixed rate over a term that can match the expected life of the improvements. So that can go out as long as 20 or 30 years, depending on your project. The repayment of the financing is secured through a municipally authorized benefit assessment lien that runs with the property. It's junior to municipal liens, but senior to any non-municipal liens on the property. And it's this assessment form of financing that allows this long repayment period, and that enables building owners to afford much more significant improvements that can reduce their energy costs and operating expenses, as well as providing an important benefit to the community by reducing greenhouse gas emissions from the building. Financing in our program is provided by a list of approved capital providers. We have 15 so far who are participating. And so you have an option of shopping around, talking to multiple providers to see who can provide you with the best rate for your project. The capital provider will also give assistance in the energy study or energy audit process or feasibility study process. Those are required to qualify the project. And they'll also walk you through all the transaction documents which they put together to submit to EIC for review and approval. EIC handles the program administration on behalf of our member municipalities. This includes billing the property owner directly so that the municipality is not involved in adding any assessment to the tax bill. And as you can see, it is available for existing buildings as well as ground up new construction as well. Our members in this region of the state include Monroe County and the city of Rochester, as well as Wyoming and Yates counties. Ontario County is in process of joining as well, and the cities of Geneva and Canandaigua. And I encourage you to visit EIC's website to see the types of projects that it has financed so far, as well as to visit the list of capital providers to see what might be a good fit for your project. And if you're in a municipality that is not yet opted in, I encourage you to reach out to me and I can let you know how that process works. And I also just want to point out that if you're in a town within the county, those are automatically included and have open CPACE available within Monroe County. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you all. I'm going to just really quickly run us through a couple more slides and then we're going to open up for questions. As a reminder, if you have questions, please type them in the Q&A. But in terms of the AMPED campaign and how we can support your continued efforts to pursue electrification, just want to point out that our website is a great resource. So please visit, a lot of learning opportunities there. We can also help you just get started by connecting you, for example, with our own Heat Smart advisor who can talk you through some of these things or send you right to get an energy audit and sign up for some of the nice sort of programs that Matt talked us through. Also, please follow us on social media. Lots of good information going out there, especially in terms of case studies, learning about projects in our region that are happening, so you can see that yes, indeed, this is doable. And also, just want to mention that we do have monthly webinars. We'll talk about the next one in just a minute. But with no further ado, let me stop sharing my screen. How do I do that? Right here. Okay. And invite questions. I know that we had one from Jackie Ebner. Matt, this is probably a question for you about how does NYSERDA verify energy savings?
Yeah, so I think that's in reference to the multifamily performance program and verifying savings at the end of the project. So my understanding is they have a contractor on staff. They'll likely either do utility bill verification or do actual metering. And that's, again, 12 months after the installation of the new equipment.
Thank you. And Jackie, if you have any follow-up questions, again, please feel free to enter those in the Q&A. A question from Harold, again, I think for you, Matt. Yep. Do 3 FlexTech audits still exist for agricultural customers?
So we still do have the ag program. Absolutely. I don't believe, I think they're low cost audits. I don't know if any of the funding has changed, but the program is still active. So feel free to shoot me an email. I can put you in touch with my colleague, Jess Zweig, and she manages that effort. So I'd be happy to do that.
Super. And if, Mary, could I ask you to share everyone's emails again, just for anyone who wasn't on at the very beginning? Question about how long does the energy study process take? Will it help me determine which form of heat pump would best serve my needs? Yeah.
So the length of the study depends. It's going to depend on how many measures you're looking at, how readily available your data is, how easily you can get information to the consultant you're working with. And then the second piece of the question was related to heat pumps. Is that correct? Whether or not?
Will it help me determine which form of heat pump would best serve my needs?
It will. Yep. So you can look at, variety of options for replacing your existing equipment. You could look at one specific option that you would like to pursue. Absolutely.
Okay, super. And last question about energy studies. Are there things I can do to help prepare for an energy study? What sort of information will they ask for versus what they can assess on their own?
Yeah, so I'll cover a couple of those, and then Bill, I don't know if there's anything you want to add. So MCOR is a FlexTech consultant. They do quite a few energy studies through the program, but generally speaking, having your utility bills, usually 12 months of utility bills readily available for the consultant, any previous design documents, any operation schedules, as much information as you can gather on your building, and have that ready to hand over to the consultant so that they can evaluate it is going to help your case.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Those are the main points that we would typically look for, along with any drawings or documentation from the original design, which Matt touched base on.
Okay, great. Well, that puts us in position to finish pretty close to on time. With our next steps here, just want to mention, again, encourage you to get an energy audit or an energy study, or talk to our Heat Smart advisor, starting to make that plan for how you can move forward with your facility. Visit ampedproject.org to get educated about your options, sign up for communications so you continue to keep in the loop as information becomes available. And for next month, on November 18th, our AMPED webinar, our monthly AMPED webinar, is going to be focused on EVs and electrifying your fleet. So we'll be keeping an eye out for registration info for that. And thank you so much to our panelists today. Really appreciate you sharing your expertise with us. And thank you to everyone else for attending. Take care. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.
Thank you.